So what if you spot me around the corner?
So that if you spot me coming
You can do what
around
you're
that
supposed to,
corner,
just walk away? Not even say
just
goodbye?
walk out on this woman.
That's the discipline.
That's the discipline.
So then you and me, we should both go do something else, pal.
I don't know how to do anything else.
I don't know how to do anything else.
Neither do I.
I don't much want to either. Neither do I.
There are remakes. There are movies that remodel previous films. And then there's the wholesale reconstruction that turns the petty theft, smash and grab raid of LA Takedown into Heat's genre-demolishing juggernaut of modern American crime dramas. It was somewhat of a slow burn despite the prodigious talent involved, but today, nearly 3 decades on, Heat is now established as one of the most acclaimed cops versus criminal thrillers in film history. It famously brought 2 of the great American actors of their generation head-to-head on screen for the very first time. And it's been regularly re-released on whatever format provides the latest optimal sensory experiences for its dazzling oral and visual palette. LA Takedown is a largely forgotten TV movie of the week, features performers you'd be hard-pushed to recognize, and physically exists only as a vanilla DVD release that totally trades off its more illustrious successor. So even making this video essay means shrinking down Heat's grand scale to its predecessor's modest old-school format. Among Heat's prominent pop culture positioning, it's been the impetus for both a podcast series on rewatchable movies and inspired another which explored the film one single minute at a time. Both have featured director Michael Mann himself taking part in their extended discussions.
For both of these guys, the real important thing is that who they were determines how they are now, and how they are now determines what's going to happen to them. Again, in the universe of the motion picture.
So at this point, is there anything else that can be said?
You know what he's looking at? I know what he's looking at. Us.
Well, perhaps by refocusing on LA Takedown to see how its trial run helped Mann get the necessary vantage point to realize his full creative vision 6 years later. The real-life story behind Mann's story is well documented. His friendship with Chicago detective Chuck Adamson, and Adamson's 1960s run-ins with and grudging admiration of criminal Neil McCauley and his ultra-disciplined crew, even once taking McCauley for coffee. Mann's meticulous research created an epic 180-page script written in the 1970s, long before his own directing career took off.
I am the last guy in the world that you want to mess with.
Mann established himself as a filmmaker preoccupied with cops and criminals, the obsessive nature and cool professionalism that drives them, and the mirroring of Hunter and Hunted.
Have you ever seen Blood on the Moonlight Well?
So in 1989 came his chance to put that script on film. Well, part of that script on television.
Okay, what we got here is a heavy-duty crew.
It was a short, sharp production process, and here's where the first practical comparisons to Heat really put things into perspective. Such strictures meant a drastic edit of the material. Mann estimates that only about 40% of his screenplay made it into LA Takedown. The basic premise is intact.
Their MO is that they are good.
Maverick cop Vincent Hanna hunts down slick criminal, here renamed Patrick McLaren, and his crew, who pay the price for trusting psychotic new recruit Waingrove. Hanna and his team pursue and finally face off with them during a bank heist shootout. Prior to that, Hanna and McLaren find a mutual respect
Buy you a cup of coffee.
and awareness of each other's matching skill sets and demons.
Stress fractures in titanium? What does that have to do with sales?
And both men's romantic relationships come under the spotlight. McLaren's new romance with a lonely woman who doesn't know what he does for a living, and Hannah's troubled marriage to a woman with a very descriptive way of detailing their problems.
And I asked myself, what the hell was that? A tune-up? A lube? What is our life together, Vincent? A pit stop.
The ending, though, is abrupt and unsatisfying. The double-crossing Waingro unceremoniously shoots McLaren dead before he in turn is drop-kicked by Hannah out a high-rise window. Hannah then seemingly reconciles with his wife.
Your breakfast?
The action all neatly tied up. If you know Heat, it's much more expansive, far more ambitious.
You live among the remains of dead people.
Hannah's wife, Justine, is even more poetic about their failing marriage.
You read the terrain. You search for signs of passing, for the scent of your prey, and then you hunt them down.
And it's very obvious which sections and characters did not make the LA Takedown cut. Justine has a daughter here whose troubled life and suicide attempt further complicates her and Hannah's turbulent relationship. The film gives a much more in-depth, intimate view of Neil McCauley's crew, particularly his protege Chris Shiherlis. Val Kilmer, then an A-list star, is third billed above the title, and the rocky but heartfelt relationship with his partner Charlene becomes a major emotional component of the story. Neil's right-hand man, Michael Chirito, is also a much more forceful entity in Heat, though that's as much due to Tom Sizemore's sizable, scary presence as it is additional screen time. And this is one of the main mismatches between LA Takedown and its successor. With all due respect to the late Scott Plank, Alex MacArthur and co., few actors stand up in comparison to Al Pacino and Robert De Niro.
Guy told me one time, don't let yourself get attached to anything you are not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner.
What do you want me to do if Waingro splits?
And where Takedown occasionally displays a face that might become familiar down the line.
I got this thing I'm about to mastermind.
And kudos to Xander Berkeley for being the only actor to have both movies on his CV.
Sit down.
Heat surrounds its iconic pair with high-quality co-stars, either former stars in their own right, or seasoned character actors, or bright up-and-comers, even in small parts. It's one of the great Hollywood movie ensembles, without a single weak link, even when Pacino is going full throttle for future memes and GIFs. Though even this Mann is justified by saying Hannah is a secret coke fiend, with, let's say, heightened expressive reactions.
She got a great ass! And you got your head all the way up it!
Because I got a hold on to my angst.
Mann can get a little po-faced in his exploration of modern masculinity.
And when I hooked up with you and you hooked up with me, you knew you were going to share me with the worst people and the ugliest events on this planet, right?
So it needs actors who can counterpunch and take the sting out of the often excessive seriousness on display.
I told you when we hooked up, baby, that you were going to have to share me with all the bad people and all the ugly events on this planet.
This is never better illustrated than the famous coffee shop showdown and first ever on-screen tussle between Pacino and De Niro.
This regular type life, that your life?
My life? No, my life. No, my life's a disaster zone.
The pair have a relaxed grace that ebbs and flows against the underlying tensions of their characters' mutual appreciation and antagonism. Mann adds in a discussion about dreams to show a more spiritual connection.
I have one where I'm drowning. And I gotta wake myself up and start breathing or I'll die in my sleep.
You know what that's about?
Yeah, having enough time.
Recognition that LA Takedown
Enough time.
just can't get at. Heat fans will know that the entire scene is a one-take shot with 3 cameras, but only ever using the 2 over-the-shoulder angles. Take 11 to be precise. And it still works. It's also emblematic of how, from every conceivable angle, Heat ups LA Takedown's ante. The wide swathe of disparate locations convey a sense of Los Angeles as a real lived-in city, not just a crime story coasting on Miami Vice-like surface flash. The action set pieces, notably the bank job shootout, have an unmatched veracity and ferocity. And the climactic showdown, attains the grandeur and existential weight Mann aimed for, re-envisaging the whole film backwards from its final image to convey, in his words, how
Neil, Macaulay, and Vincent Hanna are the only two people on the planet quite like each other. That in the world of this picture, they and only the two of them are fully aware and conscious.
if Heat devotees can't get intimate enough with the world of the film, count Michael Mann among them too. In 2022, he released his first ever novel, Heat 2, co-written with Meg Gardner. It's both a gripping prequel and sequel to the events in the movie, following Macaulay and Hanna taking down scores and gangs respectively in late 1980s Chicago, as well as following the aftermath of Macaulay's death, with lone surviving gang member Chris Shiherlis pursued by Hanna. Given De Niro and Pacino's ages, and assuming all involved want to avoid another digital de-aging fiasco like The Irishman, inevitably speculation has turned to who could play their roles as younger men. Are there any modern equivalents? Wouldn't it just be a case of diminishing returns? However, if the lesson of moving from LA Takedown's cheap prefab assembly to its cathedral of modern American cinema remake shows us anything, it's that Michael Mann knows how to move when he feels the heat around the corner.
Maybe that's the way it'll be. Or, who knows?
Well, maybe we'll never see each other again.